Those of the host, guests, and callers are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other hosts or advertisers. The show, found on the Powerhouse radio station, can promote any lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or conditions. Opinions stated by various contributors to the Powerhouse Radio and its programming are not to be considered as endorsed by the Powerhouse Radio station. Visitors are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusion. We emphasize the importance of keeping an open mind.
You know, I'm so happy for that reminder, like Mike. Thank you all for being here today and welcome to the I Am Meta Show. It's all about health and wellness,
I'm so
spirit,
happy for that
and
reminder.
what I'm going to do, I think I need to probably lower some of these volumes I have around here so I don't have an echo. So I'm going to do that right now. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for all the viewers. Thank you for all the listeners. Today, we're going to speak about hormonal imbalances and different type of or hormonal challenges sometimes that may occur. And we're going to say between birth and puberty because another segment we are going to handle between puberty and menopause and etc. So we want to kind of break it down so we can get as much information in on the topic. All right. So, and another thing for our viewers and listeners, the topic today is on hormones, right? If you have questions, hey, pose it down in the comment section for us. We'd be more than happy to tackle it for you today. If you want to speak more privately, send an email to thepowerhouseradio@gmail.com. That's DA powerhouseradio@gmail.com. Let them know the topic that you're interested in, and we'll be able to respond to you one way or the other. We may have already done a show on something you may be inquiring about. We can point you to that show and that date and time. Or if it's something that we have upcoming, we'll let you know that date and time. Even if you want to come on and sit on a panel to discuss some things, we'd be more than happy to have you. I am Zephyr, the Medicure daughter, along with Malika, a breath of fresh air. We always look forward to being here with you. Every week we want to be here with you to continue to share information. And thank you. I just want to say briefly for Prinslea Jinx, greetings. I'm not sure what time zone you're on, if you're on the West Coast or maybe in another country. So thank you for being here. You said good afternoon. So that really makes us feel good. I know the West Coast is still in the afternoon, but the East Coast over here, we're already in the evening hours. Not to mention we're in Georgia and we are experiencing snow. The temperature may go down tonight and we may have a little ice in the road. So you all please be careful out there. All right. At least if you have a little water in your home, just, keep the basic necessities in case you can't get out and move around. All right. Well, thank you once again for being here. Malika, big up yourself. Big up the Powerhouse Radio, Lady D. Give thanks for the opportunity. All right. So what we have for them today, Malika?
So today we are talking about hormonal imbalances during puberty. So, well, basically from birth to puberty, through puberty, and what that can look like for our young people in society, and some of the things that can cause it, and also, basically some things that you can do to reverse and or stop that processes of that. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Just a little brief blip. We're going to get into talking about girls and boys, males and females. What are some abnormalities that can happen during puberty for them? And we're going to be talking about the external causes, maybe some internal causes, and also some things that parents can do to help their young ones. So yeah, we're going to be bringing it to them today. I can't hear you. We can't hear you, sis.
Done.
Oh,
All
there we go.
right. There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the mic checks. Yeah, and thank you, Malika, for being so diligent with the information you're sharing on the hormonal imbalances. And because Malika is in the line of nutritional services, she knows a lot about how to balance nutrition with balancing your hormones. So I know she has that knowledge to share with you. And of course, I like to take it real scientific and biochemically so we'll know really how everything is communicating in the body. First, let's just revisit what hormones are. Hormones are like chemical messengers. It works in coordination with the endocrine system, which, if you don't know what the endocrine system is, then it has a lot to do with our brain, the nervous system, the brain, all of that is connected. So signals have to be sent throughout the day. It tells you when to get up, tells you when you're sleepy, it tells you when to close your eyes, it tells you when you need to close your eyes. Like some of you night owls, you be there yawning, watching the TV, reading, whatever you're doing, but your eye be running water, you want to sleep. But because maybe you're battling with some kind of insomnia or maybe a lot of worries on the mind, you are fighting the instructions that these chemical messengers are telling you that you need to do. When our body needs rest, it needs rest. And we have a circadian rhythm to actually stay in alignment with or in coordination with. So we often get a lot of signals to say, hey, this is what we need to do now. Deep sleep is very important for a lot of renewal and for everything. So if you already are faced or challenged with hormonal imbalances, then you really need to start to look into some of the doctors, the universal doctors, I would say, not medical doctors specifically is what I'm speaking about. I'm speaking about universal doctors like the sun, sleep, great nutrition, exercise, positive thoughts, right? So we're going to go into a lot of these things today. Now, hormones, it's has an imbalance between, it's just not women or just men, it's both. It's just human factors that we have to look into because it really it helps us to have the right mood. Who wants to go into work grumpy at 8 a.m.? I mean, it means something's going on, right? So sometimes we have this imbalance. Even when a woman is getting ready to have that menstrual period time of the month, hormones are just all over the place clashing. And sometimes they don't know why they're so moody. But once we understand this is the process, then you kind of know how to combat that. Then just put yourself in a more positive place. Set yourself to get some well-needed rest, well-added, nutrition and nutrients, because when you're losing energy, we have to replenish energy, right? So we just have to make sure we're keeping our hormones in balance. If you have a loss of appetite or maybe too much appetite, it has the thyroid projects hormones, and the thyroid, would have a lot to do with you gaining or losing that weight if it is in hormone imbalance. So we're going to look into a lot of these things today and just discuss it a little further for you. Sleep cycles, heart rate, if you want to be more cool and calm and collective, if you're just always anxious, calm down. Calm down. Study yourself. Study what is going on inside of you. That way we can better tackle the challenge and, just kind of like getting to the bottom of the matter, the fact of the matter, so that we will best know how to approach it and how to resolve. Don't let it go unresolved. You'll be walking around moody, mood swinging everywhere you go. And you're going to feel like, yeah, you're snappish, have an attitude and all that. Yeah. Check those hormones. All right.
Yes.
And it may not even be just hormonal reasons why people have attitudes. So don't really think because you may have a certain thing going on, it's just about hormones. But at least it's something to be considered and looked into.
Definitely, for sure. And if you think that you're having a hard time as an adult, man or woman, with hormonal imbalances and the way that it is, causing your life to go sideways, imagine being a young child who is still learning how to articulate themselves, understand the world around them, all the way through to being a child who knows that things are happening to they have an awareness of things changing and happening in their body, and still not maybe being able to articulate it quite clearly, and even through the older preteens and early teens. Like, imagine that you are still trying to understand who you are as a being on this planet, what contributions you have to make to society, and at the same time, you have hormonal imbalances going on, which is causing that process to be that much more difficult. I mean, imagine, okay? So let's talk about it. So hormonal development, when we go through this stages, basically when our children and when we as children go through hormonal changes, that's the development that's happening. So hormones go through our body, like the Medicare doctor said, goes through our body to different organs to tell them their messages. Okay, this is time for you bones to start growing a little bit more. Time for you to increase the capacity, skull. It's time for this, time for that. Sometimes the messages, sometimes the hormonal output is too much. Okay, and when it becomes too much, or it comes on too soon, then the children start to experience some quote abnormalities, things that are not imbalanced with their proper development. So when our children are young and we're all happy parents, feeding them, loving them, giving them all the love and everything, sometimes we're not aware in this world of the things that affect their hormones. So what we take into our digestive system affects our hormonal system, because our digestive system provides the building blocks that creates our being, right? And then what goes on our skin can also affect our hormonal system, because our skin is like a sponge. It can actually absorb things into it. Why is that important? Why am I even saying that? Because when we're feeding our children and we're just giving them things, we're giving them these processed kitty baby foods, snack things, because we want to see their little hands grabbing onto stuff. It's so cute and adorable. They're teething, so we want to pop something in their mouth, to help their gums and whatnot. Or we want to give them the little snack candies, because when we were kids, we had candy and we enjoyed it and it was a lot of fun. So we want to give that to our children. Well, it's a day and age where there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of knowledge that is readily available to you. Most everyone is walking around with a cell phone that has internet connection, and you're able to Google anything or Bing anything or Yahoo anything, whatever search engine you want to use to look it up, to find out about developmental stages that our children go through. So when we're giving them these processed foods, these things are affecting their hormonal levels. And how is that? Because of the ingredients that are in the foods. So a lot of manufacturers are using chemicals and foods that mimic estrogen type hormones. So estrogen is a type of hormone, and it's just an umbrella of a term, because there are other hormones that are similar in effect yet different, that are produced by both male and female bodies. Okay. So when we're giving our children these foods, we are increasing their input of these estrogen type foods. And the estrogen in our body, normally it will start certain processes and it will cause different forms of development. In female bodies, it will help us to develop breasts. It'll help us to put on fat so that we can be more prepared for childbearing years later. It helps our ovaries to develop more and to become more stronger, our uterus to get toned, all these things that estrogen does. It tones the vagina. It does all kinds of things in our body. Okay. And then estrogen has a smaller impact in the male body. Although predominantly males are their growth is stimulated by testosterone, they also have estrogen. Males also produce estrogen. So male and female bodies produce estrogen and testosterone and androgens, which are other types of hormones produced by the adrenal glands. And so when we are giving our children these different foods, processed foods, and we're stuffing them with, well, I'm not going to say we because I don't do this anymore.
Right.
When parents when parents are giving their children these processed foods and we're not mindful of what the ingredients are, and the ingredients contain things like soy or other estrogen mimicking ingredients, we're influxing our children's bodies with this hormone before time, and it can cause precocious puberty. Precocious puberty is an early onset puberty, and it can happen in boys and in girls. And for when it happens in boys, let's talk about when it happens in boys. When it happens in boys, it's something that we want to make. Hold on, let me get to it because I was taking my notes earlier. So when precocious puberty happens in boys, this is when puberty happens before the age of 9 for boys. Now, typically, people don't notice that boys are going through puberty until their mid to later stages of puberty is going on, which happens to be, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. That's when people start to notice boys going through their puberty. But when a boy starts to go through puberty before the age of 9, the first outward signs of puberty in a boy are an increased size of his testicles, an increased size of his penis. And these are things that typically parents don't notice because they're in his pants. And by, certain ages after diapers and after potty training, you're no longer checking. You're no longer checking. So it's not something that is readily seen or noticed as to when a boy's testicle and penis size starts to change. Not even just the size of his testicle, but the size of his scrotum, the thickness of the skin there, it changes as well. So when that happens before 9, though, that's precocious puberty. That's the early puberty for boys. When they start to get facial hair, when their voice starts changing, when you see the typical forms of puberty in boys happening at a young age, that means he's in precocious puberty, and his body has been stimulated to start puberty early before time. Because the point of puberty is to get the body ready to be able to reproduce life. And usually that happens or starts to happen around 8 and 9 for boys and girls going forward. So then usually the testicular and penis changes do not happen until around 11, 12, 13. Okay. And then the voice change 13, 14, 15. Okay. So when you see these things happening at a younger age, just know that that's precocious puberty. And they do have options for halting precocious puberty with medications. I have talked to parents who have done that for their children. And you might wonder why would you want to do that? Okay, so we'll talk about that later. Let me talk about girls and precocious puberty. So when girls have precocious puberty, it's when they start puberty before the age of 8 or around that age. And when girls start to have precocious puberty, you'll start to notice breast development first. You will start to notice, you can start to notice underarm hair or pubic hair for them. Like their hair might change. So when they're young, the hair on the boys and girls' body is really fine, really soft, and just like really small. As they start to have hormonal influences that tells you puberty is happening, those hairs become thicker, coarser, stronger, longer, darker, okay, and bigger. So also what you will notice with precocious puberty is rapid growth. If people say, oh, they're having a growth spurt, well, every year they're having a growth spurt from like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's precocious puberty. And you notice body odor. Oh gosh, sometimes parents are like, woo, this little boy is stinking. So I smell like a grown man.
Yep.
And I used to laugh at it because I thought, wow, that is hilarious. The little boy smell like a grown man. But that's not funny.
Yep.
Actually, when the little boy starting to smell like a grown man, he's in precocious puberty. And when a little girl is starting to smell like a grown woman, she's in precocious puberty. And you might be like, well, what's the problem? You know, everybody's got to go through it. This is what I was told as well, you know, when I was concerned with my youngest going through puberty. I was told, you know, don't try to stop them from going through puberty. You just don't want them to grow up. And it's like, no, I want them to grow at the best developmental rate for their body and mental health and well-being. Okay. So the problem with precocious puberty is that they hit a growth spurt early in life. So most of the growth that a human being's going to have is going to be during puberty. When they go through puberty earlier in life, they hit that major growth spurt. They grow a ton. They're eating you out of house and home and everything. They got an attitude. They want to be grown because the hormones are telling them they're grown now. Okay. Their hormones are telling them it's time to be independent. I can make a baby around here. But mentally and emotionally, they're not there yet. It's confusing for them. Okay. And this is one of the problems with precocious puberty. When they are young, going through the changes, their breasts are developing, their penis and everything's going through changes, hair and funk and everything else, they're not mentally, emotionally prepared to go through that. And their peers most likely are not going through that. So they start to feel like they're different in a weird and a wrong way. Mm-hmm. And this can cause psychological and emotional problems that can follow them throughout their life. And that's not healthy. Well, we want healthy adults running this earth, don't we? So that's the problem. And then the other problem with precocious puberty is when a child experiences that rapid growth during puberty at an early age, then they stop growing earlier in life. So when they have a typical pattern of growth, that's a healthy pattern of growth, they grow and they grow little by little. And then 8, 9 years old happens and then puberty starts. And then they have the rapid growth from 8 or 9 to 13. Then that's when you notice they get tall, they get big, you know, they're becoming the adult around that age. And then their growth starts to taper off later into their teenage years. Well, now you have people, not even just now, this has been happening. Science is just catching up to it. Girls and boys, they go through their growth spurt, say at 6, 7, 8, 9. Mm-hmm. Then that growth tapers off at 10, 11, 12. That's it. That's where they're at. That's their height. That's their height. When they had the potential to be taller, now they are shorter. And I also, this is important because I was listening to a podcast, some scientists talking about longevity and health. And they found that people who go through their growth spurt and puberty at an earlier age tend to live less long because that amount of growth hormone that they experience at a young age is the same thing that people are trying to fight in aging, you know, reverse aging and all that. Yeah. You know, I don't want to grow old. I don't want to get old. Aging, that's what happens early on. But because it happens so early, it actually diminishes their capacity for a long life. Mm-hmm. So let's work on not letting our children go through precocious puberty. Okay. I mean, and that's just one of the things that we can talk about, the abnormalities of puberty and hormonal imbalance. I'm gonna let Zephyra jump in there because I have some more to tell you guys about. I have some more.
Yeah, and what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna put a little bit of information added on to that. We're going to go ahead
Yes.
and take a brief station break after that. And when we return, Malika will get back on this topic for you. All right. And please feel free to ask questions if you have children, grandchildren, so you can help them out. But Malika was speaking about I call it the exogenous type process. It's artificial foods or agents that it's something that's external from the body, created outside of the body, but ends up in the body, which means it's through foods, air, water, and those type of things. And it's they call it in one word, and not just that particular one, but I'm gonna touch on it. It's called EEDC, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say it out for you. It's estrogen-like endocrine disrupting chemicals. That's what it does. When we put artificial chemicals into our bodies, it immediately masks natural forms of messengers. So now the brain is connecting with those artificial sources. They are being instructed by artificial sources. All right. It's not a natural process. So think again before you feed your children or even yourself all that crap. I say crap, and you know why? Because that's what it is. We have to feed ourselves. Our cells don't crave crap. It craves nutrients and minerals so that it can perform its functions. But when we impose crap into our system, we're going to have all kind of results from that. We're going to have all kind of effects from that. It disrupts our mental well-being as adults, much less children. So when we speak about the early puberty or I would say early hormonal blast that's going on, it's not an easy process. As a woman, you know every month how you feel when those hormones are going around, right? And you may be a grown woman. Just imagine a child experiencing this before 9 or before 10. And not even having the mental capacity to even know self or understand the process of life, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a purpose for all of this. There's a purpose for these type of developments, and it is to reproduce. It's to reproduce. XX chromosome and XY chromosome are the natural sources of reproduction of life on this earth. If you wanted to continue that way, that's how it is. So we do have to really pay attention to those young, I would say youngsters, because some of them are not even 10 or 11 yet, but youngsters that are going through these early hormonal changes. And we really have to guide them much better. Remove the crap, remove the food, remove the gummy bears, all the colorings and all the gums and the sugars, and remove it. You'll be helping them. You'll be doing them a big favor in their life to give them a good start. And if you yourself have a sweet tooth and say, well, I can't tell them not to do it because I eat it and I do it. Well, maybe you need to do a little self-check and get it together for yourself so that you can help others and those younger ones that are depending on you for guidance. I didn't really know I had a sweet tooth growing up. Those Chico sticks, yeah, they used to cost 5 cents. Those Chico sticks, the big long ones, used to cost 5 cents when I was in high school. And every day we passed that store, yeah, we grabbed a couple Chico sticks, now and later's, all that stuff. But by the time I got to 13 and 14 and became more aware and conscious of things, I really started to kick those habits and look to more natural sugary sweets.
Right.
I like sapodillas, and I just took it back to the basics. When we were young children growing up in Guyana, we ate natural stuff. I didn't never remember eating a bunch of sweets and stuff. And don't even ask about Follieween because we don't even have that. I think that's an American thing. We don't even have nothing like that there with all that candy. And then parents are collecting candy to feed kids, children candy, and these things. I mean, come on now.
Right.
You are to blame when they start really getting peaking. When I say peaking, PEAKING, with different type of attitudes.
Yes.
And different types of the way they may respond because they want to be grown, and you're giving them that avenue, you're giving them the tools, you're putting them in that predicament for them to perform or behave a certain way, and it will affect them the same way it affect adults. But it's, at least with children, you have an early start of making things move forward in a more physiological way that it's supposed to, instead of imposing all these artificial factors into their lives. All right, well, it's time for the Powerhouse Radio to take their break, and we're going to give it up until they die.
You're in tune to the Powerhouse Radio, linking the world to the Caribbean.
All right, all right. Pick up yourself, the Powerhouse Radio. And we were just speaking about some of the factors that may hinder the process. And I'm just going to read off some notes I have here about the EEDC. Once again, it's called the estrogen like endocrine disrupting chemicals, right? These are man made chemicals that alter the functions, the natural functions of the endocrine system. Brain, your brain there, your brain. You want to know what's going on in the world and why people are acting crazy? Well, there are a lot of chemicals that are disrupting it. And if you kind of feel crazy here and there, check what you're eating, check what you're breathing, check what you're drinking, right? But also, it causes various health effects and interfering with things like synthesis that we need, metabolism, the binding or cellular responses of natural estrogens. It binds to natural estrogens and mask it. So the brain don't even see it or acknowledge it, because now this dominance come over it. That's all it's going to know. That's how the brain functions. The brain functions off of chemical messages. Everything, the pineal, the pituitary, the hypothalamus, everything it pushes out chemical messengers. We have it all around inside of us. So just so you would know, the same EEDC that are found in the food, the air, and the water, they're found in pesticides, plastic products, flame retardants, the same stuff you want to spray on your charcoal before you light it, before you put something on the grill. Yeah, these are the same chemicals that are put in those type of chemical things, or products. And also, we have to remember that some of the greatest effects of that happens during puberty. And I wanted to bring it out because this is what Malika was speaking about earlier, and I know she's going to tap into it some more. But it affects the whole puberty process, my dear. The whole puberty process. It's called it's a period of rapid physiological changes like growth spurt. That's what she was just speaking about. It has an effect on us at that age. Okay. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Malika so she can continue to enlighten us.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank everyone for being here, for watching, for listening, for commenting now and later, sharing with your friends and family, because it's a very important topic for all of us. So something else I want to talk about with hormonal imbalance as it relates to children through puberty is when there is a deficiency or an abnormal increase in testosterone and or estrogen. So when in girls, there is going to be polycystic ovarian syndrome, which a lot of people know as PCOS. And PCOS is said to be caused by a deficiency or a lack of enough estrogen type hormones and or an increase in testosterone and androgenic hormones. And the imbalance, so whether there's a low level of estrogen hormones or a higher level of an increased level of testosterone, the imbalance is such that testosterone, being the more dominant hormone, sex hormone in that girl's body, is going to cause this overproduction of the ovaries. The ovaries are going to be producing so rapidly that they produce cysts, and these testosterone influenced cysts are what causes a lot of girls. And this is just something that had not been well known, but is now starting to become more into the public awareness, that it causes weight gain, and then it causes hair growth in places that are not normal for girls to have hair growth. So some girls are experiencing a hair growth on their chin. Some girls are experiencing a lot of hair on their top lip. And I, a normal thing, a girl can have like, a little bit of a mustache, but as long as it wasn't like too thick, too dark, just like a little bit darker than like maybe peach fuzz, it was okay. People side-eyed it, but we didn't really that much, right? Because we didn't understand what the underlying issues were. So also something that happens with PCOS is acne. And then we all think, oh, acne is going to happen when you're going through puberty. And more we're finding that acne is a sign from the body that there's something going on that's imbalanced. They still don't fully understand acne. If we just listen to our body tells us what's happening with it, tells us there's something going on that needs to be addressed internally. And so with the influx of hormones now being produced and flowing through our body, that's one of the reasons that acne appears. And it points to an imbalance in the hormones. So another thing that girls may experience with PCOS is very heavy menstrual periods, meaning the flow is they have a lot of flow. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot
and
of blood.
And clotty.
Yes, there's a lot of blood and there's a lot of clotting. So the clot being something larger than the size of a dime. And or another way that girls can experience PCOS is very light menstrual flow. Like it's almost not even there, but it's there. And then PCOS can also, because PCOS is affecting the ovaries, and ovaries is one of the main sources that the sex hormones come back. The secondary sex hormones are released into the body. So because that's where the hormones come from after the signal from the pituitary and the hypothalamus, the ovaries are going to cause the differences with the menstrual cycle, because the ovaries giving off the different types of hormones. So you have the luteinizing hormone, you have the progesterone. So when there's going to be some disorder going on with the ovaries, you're going to have a imbalance in the menstrual cycle, what it looks like. So it could be a very light menstrual cycle, it could be very heavy menstrual cycles, or there could be no menstrual cycle happening, because there could be no releasing of any eggs, therefore no luteinizing hormone, therefore no cycle happening. So, and something that is very prevalent in, I would say, the African American community or African community as a whole, that girls experience, women experience, and they don't even know that it's related to their reproductive system, is dark, like hyperpigmentation, so a darkening of their skin and a thickening of their skin on their neck, either the back of their neck, the front of their neck, their armpits, their between their breasts, and between their legs, right? So on their thighs, between their legs. A thickening of the skin, a darkening of the skin. This is also caused by PCOS and estrogen, because estrogen plays a part in the skin as well. So, and then another thing is weight issues. Many women with PCOS and girls experience weight issues. So if your daughter is experiencing any of these things, an exaggerated weight gain, or she's just gaining weight and you don't understand why she's gaining so much weight, or she's experiencing a very heavy flow of her menstrual cycle, or she's experiencing more facial hair or just hair in places maybe on her breasts. I mean, some women do get hair on their nipples and breasts, but if she's experiencing hair on her chest or anything like that, these are things that are pointing to an imbalance in her hormones. On the flip side, with the boys, a hormonal imbalance or shift of estrogen type hormones and testosterone and or androgens, boys can experience gynecomastia. And gynecomastia is an enlargement of the breasts. So because they're going through puberty and there is going to be a increased influx in estrogen, naturally they are going to experience gynecomastia in a form. The condition of gynecomastia becomes an issue when this persists, and they don't lose that fat and their chest doesn't become more muscular. Then this is the condition of gynecomastia, and it can be caused by a deficit or a lower level of testosterone being produced, and or a high level of estrogen type hormones being produced and into the body. So and another way that gynecomastia can be caused in boys is through medications they may be taking for some other condition. So if you have a son who's on medications, check that the side effects, if they may include gynecomastia, or just check the side effects, period, because you want to know, if you have your child on some kind of medication, you want to know the whole big picture. You want to be informed parent. They can also experience swelling in their breasts. They can experience pain, and they can also experience nipple discharge. So if your son is experiencing any of these things during the ages where puberty is happening, that is definitely his body saying there's an imbalance going on. The hormones are not flowing properly within. Somebody check this out for me. Okay. And so the reason why this is something important to look out for, because today our foods contain a lot of estrogen type mimicking foods, and also are a lot of skincare products, hair care products, things you use around your house, laundry detergents, dish soaps, fabric softeners, the colognes and perfumes and things. They contain endocrine disruptors, chemicals that, like I talked about this last week, right? Chemical disruptors that mimic and or replace natural hormones. And for this to happen in a child's body, it causes problems. Okay, it causes problems. And real quick, another thing I want to talk about, because you guys can check out the replay, because this is going to be on YouTube. Another thing I want to talk about really quick for girls is endometriosis. If your daughter is experiencing chronic pain, meaning she's been having pelvic pain for a very long time, okay, a year or more, months at a time, through every menstrual cycle, she's experiencing chronic pelvic pain during her periods, leading up to her periods, she needs to get checked out for possibly having endometriosis. Endometriosis is a condition of the body that happens when parts of the uterus, the inside lining of the uterus, finds its way out of the uterus through the fallopian tubes and into the pelvic region. And it can go anywhere inside the body, right? So this is crazy because every time estrogen and the progesterone and all the hormones for menstrual go through the body, wherever that uterine tissue is, will go through the menstrual cycle. And so that's why she can have pelvic pain anywhere in her pelvic area. She could have any pain anywhere in her abdomen because the tissue can travel and go to different places and end up in different places. She can have painful poops. So if she's going to do a number 2 and it hurts like hell, she could have endometriosis. Doesn't mean she does, but let's not ignore these things and just chalk it up to, oh, she's on her cycle. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
As women and men, but mainly women, let's stop minimizing the things that we go through surrounding our menstruation, surrounding our cyclical happenings in the body around our menstrual, because it's something that we go through. It's not just because, oh, that's your cycle, just deal with it, be quiet. No, let's check it out. Let's find out what's going on. If she's having back pain, if she's having painful urination, if she is having painful periods, heavy periods, if her clots are larger than the size of a dime, that needs to be checked out.
Yeah.
And if she's having excessive diarrhea or constipation during her periods, that needs to be checked out. Mm-hmm. And that is in relation to endometriosis. Again, I'm not trying to diagnose anybody. Just know that these are ways that the body speaks to you to let you know something is not
wrong.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Malika, because I'm telling you, and I hope you all are taking notes. I always say, take notes when you look at anything and you're about to get information. Have your pen and paper, take some notes, even if you don't feel you need it for yourself. Someone else may need it. Share that information with others, especially if you have a friend that may be saying, hey, this is what my children are experiencing. I already have grandchildren, so I'm watching what my grandchildren are going through. I only had sun gods. I have boys. I had sons, X, Y chromosomes. I had sons, and guess what? When they hit puberty, I knew from the time I saw the hair on their skin. Of course, like Malika mentioned earlier, after a certain time, you're not bathing your children, especially boys. And boys become very private after a certain age. They don't want mom to see, their penis and the hair they're getting, all this stuff.
Right.
But I'm happy that I have a real good relationship with my sun gods, because they were able to wake up that day and say, Ma, this happened last night, or this happened when I was sleeping, or this just happened. And I knew from they said it, I explained to them, welcome to puberty. And I sat and I explained to them what puberty meant. I'm not going to wait till they're 15 and 16 to explain that to them. At the time of puberty, I'm going to educate them moving forward so they are aware of what their body's experiencing and what they're going to look forward to over the next couple of years, right? I remember my eldest sun god, he was away. I believe he may have been in Atsugi, Japan. I'm not really sure at the time, but he called home one time and his younger brother, who's 12 and a half years difference, answered the phone, and he was shocked. He was like, Jamari? He wasn't sure if this was remember now. He was on this, Jamari answered the phone with his bass in his voice. And he was like, wow, he knew exactly that his brother is going through experiencing puberty. And I'm happy for that. But no, I have grandchildren and I'm watching them. And some of them I see that they're going through early puberty. And I know EEDC has a lot to do with it. That same estrogen like endocrine disrupting chemical. It's called EEDC if you want to make it real short. If you remove that from what you're eating and what your children are eating, you're going to really make a big difference in their growth. In their growth. Now, we did, Malika mentioned some things about estrogen dominance and testosterone dominance. XX chromosomes, which are females, which we say woman because WOMB, womb because a woman, XX females have a womb, right? So we say woman. And of course, for the XY chromosome, we say man because it does not include a womb. Males do not have a womb. And we're not speaking about someone who's birthed with both stuff. That's not the norm. Or I would say, if it can be 1,000,000 to 1, but that one is not going to be considered in alignment with everything else. It's going to be the exception to have both. Not to say anything is wrong with it, but we just know it's one or the other. And if you have both, then you have your options, I guess. Uh, I know one thing: be very careful of what you're eating. GMO soya. We're talking about these foreign matters, things outside, artificial things that are created in a lab for you to eat. Artificial soya, GMO, man made soya. They infuse it with estrogen. We spoke about this last week as well, and I'm going to repeat it again. When you have men eating a lot of soya products, sometimes they don't even know they're eating soya products because they're not reading the ingredients. If you go to the store and purchase a bottle of oil and it says vegetable oil, look on the side of the bottle, dearies. It says soybean oil.
Mm-hmm.
It says soybean oil. Chicken. There's a lot of GMO chickens out here, dear. And guess what? They're infusing it with estrogen. They don't want the men to be masculine. They want men to be estrogen dominant because it's going to lower your erectile functions. It's going to lower your potency. Your sperm count will be low and weak, right? That's what the matrix want for our men. And they want women to be testosterone dominant or overly having too much estrogen because they know it disrupts everything. You see, there's a factor out here in this matrix. They do not want us to reproduce. So they're going to come in here and finagle with our chemical messengers. And that's exactly what they're doing. They want the men to have less testosterone and they want the women to have more testosterone, if you get what I'm saying. So when those items are put into the food and it's placed in your body because you're consuming it, and this is eating or drinking, because that we have a choice of. What's in the air, we don't have a choice because we have to breathe. So it's not like, okay, am I going to breathe this in or not? No, we're going to breathe because we want to live, right? But if you have a choice to choose about what you're eating, remove the soya, remove even some of the gluten and grains and these type of different things. Now, you can go to a store. It could be a CVS, any kind of store that sells vitamins and supplements. You see, sometimes they say buy one get three free. What do you think? They're just giving away stuff? No, it has all kind of fillers in there. They can afford to give it away. It has a little bit of what it says on the bottle, but then everything else a bunch of fillers, and a lot of that have soya, grains, gluten, and all kind of stuff in there. That's why there are only certain protocols and products I refer or recommend to my clients. I know the laboratory where my products are developed and created and packaged and manufactured. And it's not going through 1,000 hands. My products come directly from the source.
Mhm.
That's what I give to my clients because I know what's in it. Pay attention to those labels. Even your Similac. Try breastfeeding if you can, dearies. It's the most natural thing you can do for your children. Look at that Similac. I know there's a whole lot of ingredients about this thick on that label, like the whole side of the can from top to bottom is going to have a whole bunch of stuff that's in there. And guess what? I challenge you to go ahead and read every ingredient and look it up. Tell me what you find. This is what you're giving your children from birth.
Right.
And it's not natural. They're all like EEDCs, they're artificials, this and that. Then they're going to pump it with this and pump it with that. Why do you think animals breastfeed their youngs? Because they know they're getting the right type of antibodies in their system and the right type of food and nourishment so that their body can go through the growth it needs to in a I don't even want to say ordinary because what's ordinary for some is not for the other, and I don't really want to
Right.
judge like that. But I know there's a process, there's a natural process on how things happen without anybody writing about it, right? We all know that usually you go into labor, the baby comes out, right? So there are some things that are just very natural, and it is disrupted when we have it's disrupted when we have chemical messengers inside of us that are telling our brain to do something else within our bodies. So be
Right.
very, very careful of what you're eating. And we're speaking about for girls and boys, men and women. We're not just speaking for just women. I just give a little bit more information on women because I'm a woman, right? So
Right.
I know enough that I've experienced enough to know. And next week, we may try to have a guest, a male
Ooh.
guest, who can speak about, some of the hormonal imbalances that they may have experienced and how they were able to realign with everything, right? So I guess next week, or let's just say through the last week in January, we're going to start giving a 1 month forecast of what our tentative topics will be. So if you will choose to sit on a panel to discuss it, or maybe you have information you would like to share with our audience and listeners and our viewers, please send us an email. You can send an email to thepowerhouseradio@gmail.com, and that is DA Powerhouse Radio. Just, let them know or let us know that you would like to know what's on the calendar. We will only give tentative for like 4 weeks forward, even though we may have 8 weeks of topics, but we'll do 4 weeks forward because we can more manage the topics and our guests that will sit with us. Right. Malika, any finishing touches for our beautiful, beautiful audience?
Well, I just want to say that our responsibility to our children is very important, and their hormonal balance is very important for them to be those happy, loving
Yeah.
adults that you want to see them become. So allow them to be those happy, loving, love receiving little beings, little children that they can be by feeding them the best nutrition, by allowing them outside to get that sunlight, that fresh air, to be around plants, and be well. Take care of them as much as you want to take care of yourself. And thank you for joining
Yeah.
us. We'll see you next week. Share, subscribe, like, comment, engage with us. If you know someone who can be, good speaker to come talk with us, send them our way, them our information, and let them know about us. And so, yeah, we just thank you
Yeah.
very much for joining us.
And for next week, we are going to touch on hormones again, but we're going to take it from puberty forward because
Yes.
that's a whole different ball game.
Yes.
And especially, I would love to touch a little bit on the menopause because I'm experiencing it. And people want to know how come I'm just so jolly and happy about everything. That's
Right.
because I know what I eat, I know what I think, I get my rest, I keep things positive as much as I can. And, I just want to keep I just want to keep things simple in my life. I don't want to focus on pain and discomfort. And I actually don't have any of that. But I do know I'm in a menopausal state. And I just think it's a beautiful place to be. So maybe for those of you who are nervous about it, I would like to share some information why you should really look forward to this energy. All right.
Yes.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, sharing with us. Friends Leah Jinx, thank you for joining us today and hope to see you again next week. Thank you, Malika. Big up yourself.
Thank you.